Hi everyone. I'm experimenting with a ring light, so you probably can see the little rings in your eyes. We'll see if we'll continue to use this. So just checking in, it's been a minute. It's day 43 of the challenge, and a lot has happened since I'd last checked in. I had gone to Melbourne for work for 4 days, which actually really took it out of me. I was super kind of charged and ready to go. I was very excited about where I was in terms of my training and my fitness and my meal plans, and yeah, really good. And went to Melbourne with the intentions of like training every day that I was there for 3 days and 4 nights, and brought all my stuff with me, and I'm happy to say that I did train 2 of the 3 mornings that I was there. So I thought that was a really good effort from being away. And you know, you're limited with staying in hotels, and you're limited to, you know, what they have in the hotels in terms of gym equipment. You know, kind of was out of my normal routine. They really only had like a cardio room. So did cardio for those 2 days on the cross trainer and on treadmill and the bike. And look, that I probably trained about 40 minutes every for each of those days. And then we did a lot of walking around Melbourne to and from the venue we needed to go for work, and was really happy with that kind of progress. And you know, it can be really difficult traveling and feeling motivated to train, whether you're going away for a holiday or if you're going for work. It can just, you know, your mind's not necessarily on that, your time restraints are a little bit different, and you're just out of your routine. So I was happy with the training element of those 4 days that I was in Melbourne. However, the food element, I really tried very hard to stick to my training, my meal plan. However, it is Melbourne. They have great food. So I did have a higher intake of carbs. And look, I think I haven't actually even weighed myself since then, because I know that I definitely would have put on weight and set me back a little bit. So I'm wanting to get back into just training and not thinking about the weight on the scale. I know the whole point of this challenge is, you know, the biggest loser of weight percentage wins the challenge. You know, it's, what did I say, day 43. And I think, you know, a month and a bit in, I've progressed really well, but we still have, you know, 10.5 months to go in this challenge. And I think the consistency is there, rather than, you know, stepping on the scale and maybe psychologically kind of psyching yourself out of what you're doing. You know, if you see the scale go up in weight, it might put you off, you know, continuing to train. You might just be like, oh, I'm doing all this work and nothing's happening, and I know I've set myself back in terms of eating, but I'm training. So it can work that way, or it can be like, right, back on track. This is showing me that, you know, I can't get off the discipline and, you know, the consistency in what I'm doing and what I'm trying to achieve. So I think that's really important to acknowledge that you're going to have setbacks, and you're going to, you know, the world happens around you. There's a lot of things that, you know, can contribute to not being able to stick to that. However, I think it's really important to acknowledge that without discipline in your life, and without consistency in your life, whether that's like diet, or whether that's training, whether that's, you know, outside of those elements, whether, you know, in work, in life aspects, etc. I think, you know, it's really important to stick with that, and to ensure that you stick with your goals. And you know, you get sidetracked, but the idea is getting sidetracked and then get back on that horse and, you know, start training again, start eating right again, and start, you know, being motivated to improve your life. Because experience has showed me that once I'm on that train of really being good at, you know, being disciplined and being on the money, and it really works and it really has results. And it's not only, you know, the aesthetic results obviously, but I feel stronger. My meds, when I do it, as in my medical, like blood work, it does show me, you know, a decrease in cholesterol, an increase in iron, a decrease in, you know, glucose levels, etc. So I think it's really important to remember that, and try not to give in to temptation. But it's going to happen. It's part of life. If you can't live in, you know, in the moment where, you know, you're enjoying life because, you know, you're unable to stick to a plan for a couple of days, then it's sometimes setting yourself up for a disappointment. But I'm trained this morning, and I've trained twice this week so far. What day are we? It was this Friday. So I trained on Tuesday, I think, and today, and I'll train again tomorrow and Sunday. So I like to keep a consistency of 4 days of training, whether that's, you know, 4 days during the week, you know, 2 days on the weekend, or 2 days during the week, however that kind of looks. Or it could be 3 days during the week and 1 day of the weekend. You might want to have it sleep in on a Sunday perhaps, but I get so much out of training and exercising, and I know my brain is constantly telling me, you want to sleep. Reality is I've probably had 7.5 hours sleep already, or 8 hours, and, you know, that extra 15 minutes or half an hour in the morning, which will then derail me to not go and train at all, is not worth it, because I always feel like I've missed out on something. So, you know, definitely those lessons of falling off the horse, and getting straight back up as quickly as you can, and getting back into that mindset is really important. So it's really a balance. It's a balance of doing all of that and not like stopping your life. You know, I think, you know, tonight, for instance, my brother is in town. He lives in Bali, and he's in town and going out for dinner. And, you know, I think I'm not going to say no to that, obviously. We're going to an Italian restaurant, Carb Central, I'm sure. I'm sure there's a possibility of me having a meat or a fish dish, which I might do. But I think it's important for me not to stop living your life while you're doing these things. So that's my little inspirational chat about that. But the other thing I wanted to report, actually, on the flip side of that, because I had an increase of carbohydrates during Melbourne, I felt the effects very heavily pretty much straight away, because I've been on a pretty kind of protein heavy diet, limiting my carbohydrates, because I know how that affects my body. It really, I think, was quite severe in terms of the effects on my body once I had some carbohydrates. And, you know, it's a work event, 3 days of 3 days of, you know, work and, you know, conference and like a summit. It was like a strategy session we were doing. It's all like lunch, breakfast is like pastries and, you know, croissants and ham and cheese, and then lunch is like sandwiches, and so it's all carbohydrates. And then dinner is generally like, let's go out, go for drinks, and then we'll have something to eat, which, you know, we went to a few restaurants throughout, which again, heavily carb loaded. So the effect was that on day 3, I had such a solid, full stomach that I almost couldn't walk properly. It was like such a bearing on my lowest belly, which obviously is my intestine area. which, you know, causes a lot of, you know, if you have a gluten intolerance, or if you have a celiac disease, or if you have like just a sensitivity to any type of gluten or carbohydrate, you know that it's not flushing through your intestines, you're not getting the nutrients out of the food you're eating, and it's stuck. So I really felt that on the Wednesday. It was a really, really uncomfortable experience for me. And yeah, I definitely have felt the effects of it. Obviously getting a bit of breakouts on my face, and I tend to get a bit of breakout on my arms as well. So introducing a lot of carbs back into my diet has that effect. So I guess the lessons there is to, even though I am having carbs and it's minimal, if I'm going to then indulge, making sure that it's a small portion. So I think that's really important to note, that your body tells you, you know, you can do all these things and, you know, indulge, but the reality is there's always cause and effect for everything. So that's also led to a bit more of me feeling lethargic as well. I mean, travel will do that, even though it was in Melbourne, but it was a big 4 days. But, you know, that also played an effect on the carbohydrates are loaded in after not having, you know, having minimal, has actually made me feel quite lethargic, tired. It's taken me a while to feel back on, feel better. And then I started questioning, you know, was the Chinese dish, you know, banquet that we had, or, you know, the pasta that I had, really worth it? And look, it felt worth it at the time because it tasted so good. But if you kind of, it's a reminder to be a bit more mindful of what can happen to your body, and mindful about the food that you are putting into your body as well, because I think I've probably felt the most tired I've ever felt for the last week than I have for the last month of doing this challenge, by introducing too many carbohydrates at one point. So the reality is, before you get back up, there are effects, and you try to learn from them. So from, not, I wouldn't say mistakes, but just those lessons that come with what I'm trying to achieve here, and how it's affecting my body if I don't follow, you know, the regime of what I want to do. So I've probably felt a bit more moody, I guess. I am getting my period soon, so it's probably the lead up to that. But prior to that, I think the changing the food you eat always has an effect, and it always kind of on your mood and on your body, I think, on your hormone levels. I mean, there's so many, you know, doctors that are out there that are qualified to talk about this better than I can. Obviously not qualified at all, just can go by my own experience. But I think when you start looking at things and knowing your body, and being, you know, seeing what certain foods or certain exercise do, the reality is, I think you start to see the effects a lot more, I guess, acutely. So yeah, so the reality is, kind of probably mood-wise, I'm feeling better now that I've trained today, and I trained on Tuesday. I'm back at home, and just kind of with a busy work schedule, a lot of my work is about going to events, entertaining kind of guests or our members. And luckily, you know, sometimes it is a sit-down lunch, sometimes there is alcohol involved. The event I went to yesterday was a sit-down lunch, but it was a chicken and I think quinoa and kale kind of salad, which was good. Quinoa is surprisingly high in terms of carbohydrates level, but it does have really good effects in terms of the minerals and vitamins that you get a boost of having the quinoa. And I felt good. Didn't binge on anything else, you know, got home, had have a relaxed afternoon, and then had a really light dinner. So that's where I generally think sits in my wheelhouse. Having a big kind of lunch, and in terms, I mean big, I mean substantial in terms of high in protein, high, you know, in terms of vegetables, and it's a good portion. And then I have smaller meals at dinner. For the morning, I generally will do a fasting, which until about 12 o'clock, and then that gives me I'll have during the morning some water. Probably I have about 750 mils of water before I have lunch, but I have a coffee in the morning and I have tea and my vitamins, and that works really well for me. And yeah, so I think just getting back on track is where I'm at. And mood wise, I have seen the effects of having the carbohydrates. So it's very interesting how it not only affects me physically, but also that emotional side of things in terms of mood. So no update in the weight section today. I think I will save that for the next update I do get. Loving this light. It's on a bit of an ambient color, so it's kind of cool having it on there. And yeah, so I think getting back on track, doing what feels good for me and my body, and I know having the right food and nutrients in my body makes me feel stronger emotionally, physically, and mentally. So I think, you know, the little indulgences here and there are okay, and of course they are, but you know, the reality is you don't want to overindulge. There's a fine line. You get excited like, oh, this is my cheat day or whatever it is. Allowing that into your routine definitely should be doing, but just be aware of how they affect your body. So that's my big lesson for the last kind of, I guess, 2 weeks since my last update. So yeah, stay tuned. I'll check in soon. Bye.